Okay. The idea of a share index comes a bit more clear when you make your own. You're going to be making 2 for your DI because you've got portfolio 1. How many companies in portfolio 1? 3. And I don't care that maybe Telstra sucked and another company did well. All I care about is how did portfolio 1 do versus how did portfolio 2 do, and then I can answer my DI question. That's what a share index allows you to do, because I can say, do you agree that if I found the percent change in portfolio 1 went up and the percent change in portfolio 2 went down, then portfolio 1 did better? That's what I want to do. So I'll make a share index myself. How do we do that? For our purposes, a share index is just a table that tracks the aggregate market value. What does aggregate mean? If I aggregate all the Legos on the ground, that means I'm gathering them together and putting them somewhere. So what does aggregate mean here? Put all the market values together. Of all the shares you own from all companies at a specific time point. At minimum, a share index will have 2 different times because this will allow you to track the performance of the share index between 2 time points. So in your DI, what was the first time point? What was the second time point? Good. Your share index is going to have 1 time point when you bought, 1 time point when you sold. The best way to illustrate a share index is just to create one. So I pulled this from your book. Martina purchased a share portfolio and wanted to keep track of changes in the value of it on a weekly basis. Yours is going to be on a yearly basis. Buy and sell. Complete the empty columns and find the AMVs for Martina's portfolio to find the percent change in her share values from week 1 to week 2. This looks crazy, but it's a multiplication and then an addition. So BHP, she's got 5,000 shares in BHP and the price was $11.75. What do you think I would do between 5,000 and $11.75 to work out the overall value of BHP in that first week? Times them together. I'll show the working out down here. BHP 5,000 times by $11.75. That's going to tell me what the value was. Times 11.75, 58,750. 58,750. And then in week 2, BHP. What numbers am I going to times together to work out the value of week 2? Is it still going to be 5,000 times 11.75? So what would I times the $5,000 by for week 2's value? What price would there be? The week two one here, $11.35. So $5,000 times by 11.35, I get 56,750. 56,750. So BHP went down in value. 5,000 times by 11.35 is 56,750. All right, someone other than that student, can you help me out with filling out NAB? What numbers would I times together to get NAB's value in week 1? Yes?
2,300 times 3250.
Yep. Times by 3250. What would I times together to get the value in week 2? And then I'll actually do it.
2,300 times by 3386.
Good. So NAB went up by a little bit. So I'll work those out and you can copy along. 2,300 times by 32.5. $77878. $74750, 77878. Someone else for Telstra? What numbers would I times together for Telstra value in week 1? Anyone? Yep. And what would I times for week 2? Good. If you're using your spreadsheet, can you already start thinking about how you would apply this to your spreadsheet? Half of your numbers are already on your spreadsheet. 4,700 times by 5.54. 26,038. 4,700 times by 5.73. So it looks like Telstra went up as well. 26,931. Someone else, last person for Boral. What would I times together for Boral in week 1? $3,500 times by $3.72, and for week 2? Yep. Move my writing time down there. Just finish that off. 3,500 times by 3.72, 13,020. 3,500 times by 4. So Boral went up 2. Just copy that down quickly for a bit of time. Anyone looking ahead, what do you reckon I'm going to chuck into the AMV1 box at the bottom? What do we say aggregate means?
All of them together.
All of them together. Because what did we just accomplish with this 58750? That is how much BHP shares were worth in week 1. This is how much NAB was worth in week 1. This is how much Telstra, Boral. I don't care about each individual company. I care about everything I own. So if I add them all together, that'll tell me what the value was in week 1. So 58750 plus 74750 plus 26038 plus 13020. 172,558. Week 2's all added together. 56,750, 77,878 plus 26,931, 15190. So even though BHP went down, has this portfolio overall gotten better? Has this person earned money value overall? Yeah. Can you see the AMVs? Did the AMV go up from there to there? Because I don't really care about how BHP did worse. I just care about how did all of my stuff do? Let's apply the percent change on that, because that's the ultimate goal of this. Percent change equals new, which is 176,749. Take old, 172,558. So this is using the formula I gave you in the last video. 172,558 times all of that by 100%. Once again, you can get your spreadsheet to do that very easily. The numbers will be already there. Take 172,558 divided by 172,558 times by 100%. So while we're talking about these giant numbers, 170,000 or so, the actual percent change in it is only 2.43% increase in all your shareholdings. Do you guys know what TLDR means on the internet? Too long didn't read. This is the too long, right? But to summarize, my share portfolio, all of this, did my share portfolio go up by a little bit?
Yeah.
Yes, that's the purpose of a share index, okay? So let's say you bought Australian companies and your portfolio went up by 2.43%, and then at the same time, the all odds went up by 10%, you could say something in your deal like, oh, I should probably choose better, all right? Because Australia did better than what my companies did, okay? Can I give you some time to get this down, because I need to scroll down for one last little bit to finish that off. So I'll give you a couple of minutes. So 20 past, I'll get back to you. The last little bit's just an extra annoyance, but that's a real thing. Minute 30. You guys getting smashed in your other subjects too? Why is it so low energy?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. I'm not actually assessing you until week 8.
Yeah, I'm gonna be behind after next week.
With this.
I'll come in sometime.
I've been up there. It's only been not my students coming up to lunchtime. I've just been lifting weights. Or I've been teaching. What have I been teaching? I've been teaching some music. I've been teaching some year 10s that I've never met before. Line equations. All right, the last little bit. Do you agree that this number is quite messy? That's huge, okay? That's huge too. Now, what did I say about the All Odds Index? How many of the top Australian companies is the All Odds Index made up of? Do you remember? 500. So if I did this for the top 500 companies in Australia, what the heck would that number be? Would it be reasonable?
No.
Would it be massive? Let's talk about the Dow Jones Index. We're talking the top 30 companies in the US. Apple is one of those, and they're literally the richest company in the world. So if I made an index for the Dow Jones, would that number be even worse than the Australian one? Okay, so the last little bit that I need to add to this is the idea of these share indexes. Someone just decides on their starting score. It just happened, okay? From the prior share index, I'm like our discussion right now, you agree that this number is ridiculous. But if we did that same index for the All Odds or the Dow Jones, it would be even more ridiculous. So as a result, to combat this, share indices are often given an arbitrary score. What does arbitrary mean? Does anyone know what?
Not like relevant or...
You used to have a legal studies teacher that would give you an arbitrary grade. What does that mean? Just random. Just make it up, okay? So this is an example of that. I can't just fudge over it. This happened for real. In 1980s, someone in Australia, probably Pythagoras, I don't know, someone decided that the All Odds Index began at 500. Is that a nice round number? That's sort of reasonable. Let's see what the All Odds Index is right now. The All Odds is up to 8,000. So how many times larger is the Australian economy if it started off at 500 in the 1980s and it's up to 8,000 now?
40.
What's 8,000? 8,000 divided by 500. Yeah, our whole economy is probably around 16 times bigger, okay? So someone just decided an arbitrary starting score of 500. This is America we're talking about though. They measure stuff in bald eagles and everything. In the 1885, what did they start the Dow Jones at? They didn't even bother with a round number. It just started at 40.94 for some reason, okay? But can we look at what the American economy is right now? The Dow Jones is up to what? 38,791 score. So it started off at 40 something. Now it's that. So what could you say about the Australian economy versus the American one? It just got dunked on, okay? But that's what a index is. But the point of this lesson, this lesson right at the end, is just to show you that they start off with made-up scores. Knowing that share indices started at scores allows easy comparison to its current score. You need to show understanding of this in your shares test and your shares DI. So how do I deal with arbitrary share index starting scores? Identify the given share index starting score from the question. It might say it started off at 500. Who knows? In your DI, you're going to make it up. What are you going to start it off at? 100? Sure. What could you start it off at? 40.94? Do it. Right? It's arbitrary. You make it up. Okay? Step 2, calculate the percentage change in the share index between time periods. Did I show you that in the previous video? How do I find percent change? And then 3, apply the percentage change you found in step 2 to your starting score in step 1. So how are you going to deal with this arbitrary share index? I'm going to scroll up quickly and come back. Did we find the actual percentage change on Martina's portfolio here? Yeah. 2.43. So I'm just going to quickly write that down. 2.43%. All I need to do is apply this 2.43% change to the starting score that I'm given. So if my question in the timeline, my question in the test said, Martina's share index began with a base of 500 in week 1. How do I find what it would be in week 2? Well, I need to find what 2.43% of 500 is. What's 2.43 as a percent, as a decimal? 0.
0.0243.
Good, 0.243. And if I want to find 2.43% of 500, I times that decimal by 500. And that's going to spit out 0.0243 times 500, 12.15. So, therefore, in week 2, her portfolio went up to, it started at 500, what would it go up to? 500 and what? We worked out that 2.43% was 12.15. Good. Would go up to 512.15 score. That's a little more reasonable than the 172,000 yada yada yada. Yeah? It's more easy for our minds to comprehend. Right? That